Welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining today. We're just going to give it a couple minutes to allow all of the attendees to join, and then we'll get started. Hello everyone that's still joining. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes before we start the session, just to give everyone a chance to join. Thank you all for coming. We've got a few more people just trickling in, so I'll just give it another minute. Okay, we'll get started then. Good afternoon, everyone, and happy National School Governors Awareness Day. I'm sure you are all aware that that is the day today. Thank you all for joining us. We have what I think might be a record-breaking number of people signed up for this particular session today. So we are really looking forward to this session. My name is Claire Skinsley, and I am the Partnerships Manager for our corporate partners at Governors for Schools. And I'm joined today by Joyce, who I will just let introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Joyce and I'm also a partnerships manager in the team, but I work for the funder side. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Joyce. So during this session today, we will be talking about who Governors for Schools are, what school governance involves, why you'd want to get involved, and of course, how you can sign up. We do also have a short poll today, a quick poll, just to hear about where you've heard about this webinar. So I'm just going to start that now. Just going to launch that now, sorry. Yeah, it would just be great to know how you all heard about the webinar. So please do answer that poll, and then we can get started. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started then. This session is being recorded, and that recording will be sent to you all once the session is over. And we can also provide the slides as well. We will be doing a Q&A at the end, so please do put any questions you have for this in the Q&A box, and we will answer these aloud at the end. Closed captions are also available, so please do switch these on if needed. Okay, so just to get us started then, I thought I'd talk about who we are and what we do at Governors for Schools. So Governors for Schools is a charity dedicated to supporting education through effective governance. We do this by sourcing skilled volunteers to serve on governing boards across England and Wales. And for over 25 years, we've played a vital role in helping schools and trusts build exceptional boards, helping pupils benefit from the best possible education. We know that having talented and committed volunteers active in board roles can really transform a school, and we work with schools to understand what they need, with schools registering their board vacancies with us via either our enhanced or our funded service. When schools register their vacancies with us, they say if there are any specific skills or experience that they're looking for, and we then work with our volunteers to find the best match and make introductions. During your time with us, we provide ongoing support so that you can develop your skills and have the knowledge to succeed from the start. We aim to not only find volunteers with the right skills, but to ensure that boards are representative of the wider community, and we really are successful in engaging a broad range of people. So what is a school governor then? The main question, I suppose. The governor role is strategic rather than operational. Governors don't get involved with the day-to-day running of a school. Instead, they work at board level to support and challenge the school's leadership team to drive school improvement. A school governor is passionate about improving opportunities for all young people, and to do this, they volunteer their time, skills, and experience to impact the effectiveness of the school they support. So, a big question then, why become a school governor? What might your motivations be behind wanting to apply to become a school governor? These are some of the questions that we ask ourselves. There are multiple reasons why you might consider becoming a school governor, and some of the common reasons might be that you really care about the education that children receive, and you have that motivation to want to drive school improvement. It might be that you enjoy a challenging and rewarding role that can help you both professionally and personally. You want to bring what you've learned in your professional life onto the board to best support a school, so them transferable skills. And also, you want to make an important contribution to your local community and the wider educational issues within that. So moving on now to what makes a good governor. So what qualities can make up a good governor? As you can see from the slide, there are numerous qualities that make up a good governor, but to name a few, you will need to be committed and be able to devote the required time and energy to the role, while being ambitious to achieve the best possible outcomes for pupils. You will also need to be able to challenge and support, so providing appropriate challenge to the status quo and not taking information or data at face value, and always driving for that important aspect of school improvement. Equally, you must be collaborative, so you must be able to be prepared to listen and work in partnership with others, and understanding the importance of building strong working relationships within the board and with the executive leaders, the staff, parents, students, and the local community. You will also need to understand the value of something like critical friendship and how this can really improve the whole board's effectiveness. So why do we need school governors then? There is a continual need for volunteers as we have vacancies registered throughout the year, and school governors are one of the largest volunteer groups across England and Wales. Here at Governors for Schools, we have thousands of vacancies registered with us that skilled prospective governors like yourselves could apply to. You can see from the statistics on the slide that 60% of our appointments are in primary schools, compared to a 23% in secondary schools. And this is due to the fact that there are more primary schools than there are secondary. So with this in mind, we just really encourage you to consider being as open as possible when thinking about the type of school that you'd like to support. School governors enable their school to run effectively, and as we've mentioned, they provide excellent education for children. They have three core responsibilities, these being planning the strategic direction of the school so that there is a clear vision in line with the school's ethos, overseeing the financial management of the school and ensuring its money is well spent and appropriately accounted for, and thirdly, holding senior leaders to account for the educational performance of the school and the outcomes of its pupils. I'm just going to delve in a little bit deeper into each of those core responsibilities now. So in regards to strategy, as a governor, you play a key role in setting the vision for the school and helping the head to think about how that builds into all areas. Some questions we can think about regarding this are, is the vision ambitious for every child, and what is in place to make that happen? If the school does have a clear vision, it can be the blueprint for every child's success. Think about how children, staff, and families are engaged and consulted, and make sure that is clear and embedded. You will also be involved in areas such as policy development and agreeing the school development plan. All of these areas require a range of skills, and expertise can make a real difference. For example, an educationalist can help to ask questions and build a strong approach around areas like curriculum. Someone with financial expertise might be able to help the school to budget effectively and deliver a sustainable future for the school. Someone with marketing expertise might be able to help consider if the school is being presented in the best possible light and how students can be proud of the school that they attend. And someone with community knowledge can contribute to a deeper consideration of local issues. Moving on now to the financial management aspect of the school governor role. So governors do not set the budget, but they must oversee it and ensure that it's spent in line with the strategic vision for the school. The level of responsibility may differ between boards, but something common to consider is the breadth of competing needs for the budget. Building a sustainable future for the school is vital to supporting educational achievement. So you don't need to be an expert in finance, and you will learn as you go. And that's the point of having a mix of skills across the board. You will contribute some skills and you will gain others. As a governor, part of your role is to monitor and evaluate. And to be effective in that, you really need to be able to ask questions and be aware of all the information available. Being able to support and challenge the head is one of the key aspects of being a school governor. A good example of how you might do this is examining the progress and attainment data. So you'll examine how different groups within the school are progressing. What is in place to support children with SEN, for example, or children with English as an additional language? By discussing with the board, you can really understand what that data means and how it affects each child. Another way of looking at the responsibility of accountability is to break it down into watchdog, mediator, and champion. As a watchdog, you're there to make sure that the right questions are asked, seek evidence to back up statements being made, don't accept what is being reported or planned on face value, but make sure that there's robust reasoning behind it. As a mediator, you'll be juggling the needs of the students, the staff, and the parents, as well as more practical things like balancing the budget. You'll be sat on a board with people from a variety of backgrounds, and you need to bring people and their opinions together to ensure that the board is effective. And lastly, it's vital to be a champion. You really need to be able to celebrate the successes of the school and make sure that progress is recognised. And now I am going to pass over to my colleague, Will.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Claire, for that, and happy National School Governors Awareness Day to one and all. It is one of my favourite working days of the year. I enjoy seeing LinkedIn awash with people talking about how much they love their school governance roles, and it's fantastic to see that there are over 100 people on this webinar currently hearing all about becoming school governors. And next February, when we have National School Governors Awareness Day 2026, I hope to see many of you celebrating a really happy few months spent in your school governance roles. I've been a school governor myself for around eight and a half years now in two different institutions. I was firstly a governor at a primary school in Islington in North London, where I served as a chair of governors for 2 years. I served as a safeguarding link governor and a number of other roles from sort of 2015, 2016 through to 2021. And I am currently a trustee for a single academy trust down in Sussex, where I'm now based, and they are both roles that I really enjoy. My motivation for getting involved in school governance in the first place was, well, partly I work for Governors for Schools, so it's very helpful going out and having the conversations that I'm having. But at Governors Schools, we very much work with a lot of different schools. Across large geographical areas. We have ongoing relationships to match people like you into schools. And what I missed from my previous from my previous experience was being involved with an individual school. I really enjoy being part of school communities. It's a really, they tend to be really warm, welcoming places. It's a really enjoyable thing to be part of a school's journey. And so I was very keen when I started here at Governance for Schools that I could retain, that close connection with the school. So I very, very quickly signed up to become a school governor. And I absolutely haven't looked back. To me, I always talk around school governance as being a privilege. I don't view it as um I don't view it as something that I have to do. I don't consider it something I have a right to do, but the opportunity to give back and be part of the school community, to focus on to sort of delivering really positive educational outcomes for children, regardless of their background, is something that's deeply motivational to me, and it's something that I enjoy doing. That I enjoy doing immensely, and so for me, it's always a privilege. The opportunity to be given the opportunity to serve in this role, to hold this sort of public office. The level of responsibility and sort of trust that's placed in me as part of the governing board is not something that I take lightly. And if I look back over the last sort of 8.5 years I've been involved in school governance, some of the decisions and things that I've been involved in, show you how much influence that we're able to have, whether that is going through things like head teacher recruitment, and where the governing board, as a chair of governors, I was responsible for leading the recruitment for a new head teacher for a primary school in Islington, an incredible responsibility to be given, and an incredible privilege to be part of that process and sort of choose who we select, who we're going to have to sort of lead our school over the next sort of over the next months and years, was an incredible thing to be a part of. Um, and that's just that is just one example of sort of the many things that I got out of the role. I've developed massively from a personal perspective. It's brought me a lot closer to the communities that I know that I lived in. In 2021 I moved out of London and I moved down to Sussex, which is an area that I don't have any sort of roots or connections in, and I became a trustee and down here, at Harlands Primary School, where I serve currently, and that really helped me develop a sense of my neighbours, what the community was like that I was living in, what people are going through, how they thought about life, and sort of get to meet people. My role has brought me into contact with people that I would never have met, probably, in any other walk of life. I've met people from with different ages, different backgrounds, different professions, and I've had the opportunity to learn from all of from all of those people. And for me, one of the things I love most around school governance is the opportunity to go into schools. I think, Claire spoke really brilliantly about the work that we do in terms of governing board meetings and sort of the accountability and this sense of acting as a critical friend. And for me, that takes place both in the governing board meetings that I'm very well used to going to. Go to sort of 10 of those a year between sort of the various committees that I sit on in the full governing board meetings. But the aspect that I really love the most is getting into school, going into school, going on learning walks, talking to pupils, building relationships, and being visible in my role as a governor, and getting to know the people, and getting to know the people that I work with, and that really helps me understand, how all the wonderful things that the schools that I've had the privilege to be a part of, are doing, the impact that's having, and how the young people whose educations we're shaping are talking to us about, about their roles. It's such a joyful thing to be a part of. There are definitely challenges to being a school governor. It's certainly not the easiest volunteering opportunity that I've undertaken in my life, but it's certainly, for me, the most rewarding, and something that I intend to continue doing. So from my perspective, I'd really recommend anyone on the call, take up. It's great that you're here, that you've got that interest there. I think the most important attribute that we can bring with us to school governance is curiosity. It's just wanting to find out, why decisions are being made, what the impact of those decisions are, wanting to get to know people, building those relationships with the school, be that the teachers, the senior leadership team, or the pupils and the parents in the schools, as may be appropriate. And so the fact that so many of you are here on this call today is evident to me that that you are curious about the role, that you do want to give back. And so I say, if you do want to give back to education, if you really care about, educational outcomes, and you want to see all the children being given sort of equal opportunities to succeed, then there are a few better ways to do that than getting involved in school governance. And there's so many different professional backgrounds and perspectives, be that, personal, cultural, etc., that we can bring to the role that really make that effective. And so absolutely, once again, fantastic to see so many of you here. And I just brought along, I don't know if you can see me as part of this presentation. I didn't check that, but when I left my first school, Laycock, they gave me a lovely yellow badge, a little Laycock Legend badge with my name on the back of it, which I don't have the habit of walking around wearing, but it's quite a nice little treasured memory, and it just shows, for me, it just goes to show, how much schools value what it is that we bring with us and the time that we invest into them. And it's quite a happy little keepsake, for my first governance role. And something that brings a smile to my face, whenever I come across it, with the in the places that I keep such things. I will leave it there, and I'll hand back over to Claire and Joyce, but I'm happy to answer any questions about my experiences in my role as the session continues.
Great, thank you, Will. Will has been involved in school governance for years, so he can go on and on and on and tell you lots of stories. So if you have any questions for him or just questions in general, feel free to pop your question in the Q&A chat, and we're trying our best to come to your question the best we can. So now let's talk about the different roles on the governing board. Can I have the next slide, please? Cool, thank you. So there are various roles on the school governing board that are made up of the following list. So we have the chair of governors, who is responsible for ensuring the effective functioning of the board and gives the board clear leadership and direction with support of the vice chair. Boards will nearly always include the head teacher, as this is part of their job, although they can opt out if they wish to. And they also have a clerk to governors to provide administrative support to the board. Staff governors, as the name suggests, is a staff member at the school that are elected onto the board by other staff members. And then we also have parent governors. So for parent governors, you should have a child at the school. If a school cannot recruit a parent governor, a proxy parent governor who has a child of school age can join the board. Some of you here listening, you might be a parent yourself and interested in being involved in education, which is amazing. If you are only specifically wanting to be a parent governor at your child's school, we will encourage you to inquire the school directly, because they normally would tell parents through their communications that they are recruiting for parent governor vacancies. It is more common for schools to advertise their parent roles in their own parent networks than through us. But if you're open to other schools, that's lovely, and we're here to help. Roles that we most commonly recruit here at Governors for Schools are local authority governors, foundation governors, and community, or sometimes we also call it co-opted governors. Essentially, each of these names for governors just describes the different ways of being appointed. So whether you are voted in by the board, that is the co-opted or community governor, or if you are supported by the local authority, and of course you are then local authority governor, or signed up by the diocese, then you are the foundation governor. The role is still fundamentally the same, as it involves the strategic, financial, and accountable focus that we've just described. Next slide, please. So at this point, you might be slightly confused. So what is a trustee, and how is it different from being a school governor? We have the answer for you. In the governance structure terms, trustees sit at board level and are responsible for all the schools in an academy trust, as compared to governors who are responsible for individual schools only. There can be anything from one school, 40 plus schools within academy trust, and the budget will vary accordingly. Funding for academies is delivered directly from the government rather than through the local authority, meaning that trusts need to ensure transparency around its management and effective use. This is where external skills from the business sector are especially useful, as education leaders may not have been required to manage multi-million pound budgets before, which is a lot of money. It is also important to know that the trustee role is also a dual role. As well as being a trustee of a trust, individuals also operate as a director of a company, meaning that they're listed on Companies House and subject to company law. Beyond this important distinction, however, the trustee role is in many, many ways similar to a governor role, in that it is a strategic, eyes-on, hands-off role involving being a critical friend, challenging the executive of the trust, which is the senior leadership, the CEO, as opposed to the head teacher of an individual school, and holding the executive to account for its decision-making. The time commitment is roughly the same, approximately 4 to 8 hours per month, and it is still a voluntary role. although some trusts may offer expenses. Like the governor matching process at Governors for Schools, we also strive to meet your preferences when matching you with a trust. We believe a blended governance approach consisting of both local and remote governors will increase the diversity and inclusivity of governing boards. So what is a remote governor? Some of you actually asked this question in the chat. So here's the answer for you. And why do we need remote governance? Remote governance is a model of school governance that allows for at least a minority of board members to attend meetings remotely. The impact of COVID on standard business practices and access to schools has caused us to question what is actually required from governors and how we can best tackle diversity and skill shortages. Many boards are looking for a particular skill set, and in some areas, volunteers with this skill are hard to come by. Remote governance is a great way for your board to add this skill from experienced volunteers elsewhere in the country. This way of working can increase diversity on the board and help make it more inclusive. The role of a remote governor would be the same as a local governor. In fact, the only difference would be that the governor would have a virtual presence rather than a physical one. So if you're interested in finding out more about remote governance, please speak to your partnerships manager when you apply. Here is a session where we answer most of your FAQ around commitment. In terms of time, based on the feedback from our volunteers, the governor role takes on average 7 hours per month. This can vary depending on whether you take on additional roles such as the chair role. But most boards will meet once per half term or so. You also need to factor in the time to prepare for meetings, visit the school, report back on your findings, as well as being involved in school celebration events. In terms of term of office, it is usually 4 years. So it's best to consider the role as long-term. It can take quite a while to get to know the school and start to see the impact that you are having. Obviously, it is a voluntary role and your circumstances can change, and we understand that. So you may have to resign before the end of your term. That's okay. And equally put yourself forward for a second or even a third term. One of the governors that I work with, because I'm also a school governor myself, he has been a governor at the same school for 18 years, and he still very much enjoys it. So it could be you in the future. Some schools also consider associate governors who may be involved in specific projects for a more limited time. So for associate governors, they do not have the right to vote. Their role is more like project-based, if that makes sense. In terms of travel, when you apply, you let us know how far would be practical for you to travel to a school. The larger the area that we can search for vacancies, the quicker we're more likely to be able to find you a vacancy. So for example, if you want a school within 10 minutes of your house, you may be waiting a bit longer than if you're happy to travel like 30 minutes. In London, we're also very fortunate to have more volunteers than vacancies. So if you're based in London and if you are happy to travel a little bit further, that would be really helpful. Some schools are also willing to take on a governor, the remote governance, which I just talked about. So if that's something that you would like to consider, let us know when you do your application with us. So lastly, let's talk about liability, which sounds big and scary. When you join a governing board, you are seen as a collective entity that supports the school. So any decisions or strategic oversight that you provide is seen as a collective. So there is this idea of shared liability. So what that means is that if the board was found to be not supporting the school enough in a sufficient manner, or almost let down the school, it is likely that the whole board would be dismissed, as they would then be found jointly liable for their failure. But there could be misconceptions around personal liability. The only way a governor could be found personally liable is if they were found to have acted criminally, for example, negligently or fraudulently. So our advice and guidance is, as long as you act genuinely with honest intentions and motives in the best interest of the school, there's nothing to worry about, really. Where there are financial losses or debts by the school from poor financial management, then usually they have insurance policies to cover that money. So as a governor, you are not personally liable for the debts of the school. So don't worry, your bank account is safe. So if you're interested in finding out more about liability, we actually have an FAQ on our website, so do check it out. So we have covered nitty-gritty bit of the role, but why should you be involved and how will you benefit? You will develop transferable skills from the wealth of opportunities that being a school governor can offer, benefiting you both professionally and personally. You have the opportunity to develop experience across a range of skills that you may not have otherwise be exposed in your normal day-to-day role. Our professional development research found that by undertaking a governor role, your confidence increased, performance was enhanced in the workplace, and there was reported growth in preparation, flexibility, agility, analyzing performance data and KPIs, financial skills, and also value for money. So lots of good stuff there. Of course, you also gain board experience, making board level decisions, as well as having the opportunity to network and collaborate with others in your community, which can broaden your worldview. And I also want to highlight that you do not need to be a teacher or an educationalist or a parent to be a school governor. Everyone in this virtual room has a unique skill set to offer a school governing body. So whether it is in finance or HR or fundraising or education or mental health, there must be a school nearby that are just crying out for your skills and commitment from you. So wherever your skills lie, there will be a school that needs you and need what you can offer. And you can, of course, it is a great way to give back to your community. And during your term of office, you will have an impact on the education of hundreds, if not thousands of children. And these children can have a better experience of learning, higher aspirations, and improved life chances because of you being on the board. So that's really meaningful. So at Governance for Schools, we do more than just place you in a school. We want to help you to get started in your role as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Therefore, we have a range of e-learning modules on a number of topics to introduce you to the key elements of the role. We also have a CPD certified induction course called Becoming an Effective New School Governor. So you can learn about the role while completing your CBD hours. Kill two birds with one stone. We also hold regular webinars so you can continue learning and have the opportunity to ask our governance experts questions. Once you're placed in a school, you'll be given 12 months free access to online governor hub knowledge called Governor Hub, and that's really useful and really practical. And in England and Wales, all governors are able to access free learning training opportunities through their local authorities or through the trust that they work with, which will be organized through the school. We are almost coming to the end of our presentation, but it would be lovely to see some of the feedback that we have received from the volunteers that we have worked with. In simple terms, they were happy with our smooth process, our efficiency, our clear communication, and more. We as partnerships managers strive to give you a pleasant experience and support you to kickstart your school governor journey. Next, please. Now, it's our second poll of the presentation. We would love to find out how likely you are to apply to become a school governor. So Claire will just pop the poll now. Thank you.
Sorry, everyone. I'm just getting it up. There you go.
Cool.
Thank you very much for your responses on that. And thank you very much as well, Joyce, for talking through those slides. That was brilliant. So I think we have had loads of questions already in the Q&A box. So thank you very much for putting those questions in there. We do still have a few more to answer. So I think what we can probably do at this point is we can read the questions aloud, and myself, Joyce, and will try to answer them to the best of our ability. There is a QR code on the screen, so if you are interested in applying, then please do scan that and it will take you to our application page. We are able to also put a link to our application form in the chat box. I don't have it to hand, but I'm not, maybe Joyce or Will be able to pop that in there. So if you give the QR code, perfect, thank you. That was very quick. Yeah, so again, thank you all for attending today. So we'll open up to Q&A now. There is one question in the chat, so I'll just read it aloud. The question is, the trustee roles summary mentioned legal compliance and how you are listed on Companies House, but where does legal compliance responsibility reside in governance structure of maintained schools?
Yeah, I belatedly posted a response to that question just to assure the person that had asked that. So school governing boards are covered by sort of limited liability, so you have no personal, so unlike being a trustee where you do have to sign up to be a director of the trust, and there are some sort of legal things that can come off the back of that. As a school governor for a maintained school or for a local governing board, you have no personal liability for the performance of the school, and you're covered by the school insurance, and the work of the governing body is covered within that school's insurance. So there is no personal liability for you, just to reassure everyone on the call.
Thank you, Elle. That's great. And thank you, Alberto, for your question. So another question we have in the chat is, so most of the time required for the role, the approximate 7 hours per month, will be devoted to personal work, while meetings are held only once per half term. So I think the 7 hours, you'd need to factor in time for the pre-readings of those meetings and attending the meetings, and also attending school celebration events too. But Will and Joyce are actually school governors, so they will be able to give you probably a more detailed explanation of that.
I can do that. I would say 7 hours is really just an estimation. If you think about school term, how school time is structured, for example, during summer holidays time, of course, you will have no meetings and you will have nothing to do. And you do need to spend some time in reading the meeting notes. Sometimes you have quite a lot of things to read beforehand, and you also need to travel to the school. And sometimes schools might have also some other events during the term that they will love governors to join, but it is not a necessity. It is not like a compulsory requirement for you to join. So you can decide whether or not you want to be more involved in the school or slightly less involved with the school, with just joining the meeting, depending on how available you are.
Yeah,
thank you, Joyce.
Very much. Yeah, and within that, it's always because it's just so important that we know, that we don't, we're not individually responsible for everything. A governing board is anywhere from 8 to 18 people, typically around 11 to 12 people. And so there is that aspect of, at times I may pick up more in my role, because I have that spare capacity to do so, and there are times where others may do. So you just work as you're working as a team. But yeah, making sure, I think one of the most important things that we do, one is make sure we read all the papers, so we go into those meetings ready to have an informed conversation. We're not sort of going through the papers in the minute and wasting valuable meeting time, and also just doing our best to sort of get into school and actually see it in action, because that's where so much of that real learning takes place. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We do have a question in the chat. I'm not sure if this one's been answered. Are there any additional responsibilities for governors during an Ofsted inspection?
Yes, that was my fault. I accidentally clicked answered live, and then I realized I couldn't undo it.
Okay.
So my apologies there. That was just a clumsy finger.
Right.
But yeah, from an Ofsted perspective, when Ofsted come to visit the school, they will meet with governors. They won't want to meet with all the governors, but they will meet with a sample size of the governors, and it can be quite challenging because you only get 24 hours notice. So it's sort of who is actually available and has a free and off diary they can clear to get into the school to meet with Ofsted. But I think it's I've been through 2 Ofsted inspections as a school governor, and neither of them have been as scary as I may have built them up to be in my head. They've been sort of really positive conversations. And I'd say that, if you're involved in the school, if you've been going to meetings, you know what's happening, you know what the school's ethos and values are, and you've been a part of conversations, it's quite easy to prove. It's quite simple to prove that and have that really enjoyable conversation about the direction the school is going in, and make sure that Ofsted can see that there is sort of effective governance happening, and the governors are involved in what's going on at school. We know what's going on. So some governors will meet with Ofsted every time they come around. It won't be all the governors, and really it's just about knowing our stuff and being able to have an informed conversation with the inspector. But I actually really quite enjoyed my last Ofsted inspection as a governor. It was a really enjoyable 45 minutes.
Thanks, Will. Okay, so next question. How long is the process between the application and being appointed? So that can really differ. It really does depend. Ideally, from the time that you apply to the time that your appointment is processed, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Will and Joyce, but I think we say 6 months, I believe. And sometimes it can be a lot sooner than this. And again, it kind of goes back to what Will was saying. It depends how kind of communicative the school is, and if you're able to set up the meetings, if you're both able to find a time to meet. It really does depend. But as I mentioned, we do have thousands of vacancies already live on our system to kind of get you matched up to. So yeah, on average, we say 6 months.
And to add on that, different schools have their internal recruitment processes as well. So we cannot say for sure, like in 2 months' time or 3 months' time, you'll be guaranteed an appointment. And also, however long the process is, whether it is 2 months or 6 months or even longer, hopefully not, we are here to keep track of your process and give you updates and communicate with you and the school and be the middleman if needed. So you're definitely well supported during the process.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Joyce. And I think potentially we could link that question and those answers to another question that we have in the chat. And this question is, would it be worth joining now if I'm pregnant, or better waiting a while? And I think this is completely down to you really, but if maybe it takes 6 months to find and be placed at a school governor role, I guess it's about kind of determining where you will be in your pregnancy, or where you will be at that stage in your life, and whether you'll be able to commit to the role at that time. So it's definitely your kind of call on that one. It could be that you submit an application and you start the search, and then maybe you place your application on hold. But we're not going anywhere. So if you want to wait until after your pregnancy, then we will still be here. Okay, the next question in the chat is, does it cost schools to advertise for the governor roles with yourselves? So we do have our free to access service for schools, and that is the service where schools are able to register a board vacancy with us, and it is free of charge. We do also have an enhanced recruitment service, and schools are able to buy into this service if they have multiple vacancies, or if they have maybe a set skill set that they're looking for, and that volunteer has to kind of be headhunted for that position, and that's a chargeable service. We do also have a chair recruitment service, and again, this is more of a headhunted position, so we charge for that service. And we also have a trustee recruitment service too. So we have a free to access service and then free chargeable services. Would anyone add anything else onto that?
No, I think that covers it well. I think it's still very much that the significant number of appointments are made in the funded service, which is fantastic, and there are additional opportunities there for schools that may need that additional layer of support. But it's all obviously delivered at a very, as a charity, it's very much a non-profit making from a governance and school perspective, and it's purely just to ensure the sustainability of the charity moving forward. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you, Will. So the next question that we have in the chat is, I am a software professional and I'm passionate about encouraging more girls into tech, which is brilliant. is it possible for me to specifically join a school as a school governor with this purpose in mind? I am more keen to encourage my local school to become I Belong champion. And there's a link. So yes, this is possible. So we do actually have a STEM governor program, and we work with our corporate partners, some of our corporate partners to we're trying to incorporate this STEM governors. So that is possible. Did anyone else have anything to kind of drop into that?
Think when you fill in your application, you'll be asked to do like a self-evaluation form of your skills and experience. There's one about data analysis. So if you're expert in this area, you can definitely put extensive in that area and let us know more when you put in your personal statement. Just in general, when you fill in your application form, just let us know what kind of schools you want to be involved in, and we'll try our best to look for the right school for you.
And I think I would add that, when we think about, when Claire was talking about sort of the three core areas and we're looking at robust accountability, and we mentioned being a champion, I think a big part of that, as professionals coming into a school setting, is how we can leverage our own sort of personal and professional networks for the betterment of the school. So if we're passionate about something like, getting more girls into sort of tech, which is a fantastic thing to be a part of, and we've got good links with the industry, and we can actually open up opportunities for the girls and the young women that attend our school, then that is a fantastic thing to do. It's very much a conversation to have with the school leadership team about what their approach is and the work that they're doing and how best this can fill in. But actually opening up our personal and professional networks for the betterment of the school, is a really important in that sense, part of that sense of sort of being a champion in our school governance roles.
Brilliant, thank you, Will. The next question is, is there an expectation of the number of visits you should make to the school, for example, speaking to students, teachers, etc., outside of governor meetings, or does this vary between governors?
I would say that varies very much between governors in terms of their personal circumstances, absolutely what an individual governor can do. I think most schools will have a strong preference that, if someone's not a fully remote governor, that they attend the school, twice a year at least in person, because, you need to have, I think realistically, you want to get and see the school in its, in its operational glory. It's one thing reading about a school on a bit of paper and discussing it, and we want to make sure that we can actually see what that looks like in person. But it is really, really variable. It is perfect. It is adaptable to, your own sort of personal circumstances and what you can do and how much time you want to and are able to sort of give in terms of school government visits. So it is, really, really up to you. But I would really, it's part, as I said in my earlier pitch, really, it's one of the aspects of school governance that I enjoy the most, is that opportunity to get into school and actually see it in action and see, how the decisions that we've been taking as a board and helping, and the strategies we've helped influence are sort of playing out in terms of the educational experiences of the children and young people in the school.
Thank you, Will. Joyce, did you have anything to add to that?
No, all good.
Perfect. Okay, moving on to the next question then. On your application form, I can only select one borough. How can I select more? What you can do is, when you submit, the reason you can only select one borough is because it's where you reside, so it's where your home address is. But if you are interested in schools within another borough, once you have submitted your application, you will receive an email from a partnership manager, and you'll be able to explain to them, I would like to also look for schools within this borough, and this borough, and then we can accommodate your preferences that way.
And we don't search for you don't search for vacancies by borough, do you? Sort of just on a map of the local area that sort of wanders across borders as necessary, and it sort of looks at all the schools that are located.
Yes, exactly that, Will. So do you have a current list of vacancies to have a look at in local areas? So we don't actually publicly advertise the vacancies that we have. Instead, we use a matching process. So we would use your application to kind of match it up with the most suitable vacancy within your local area, as Will just said. So rather than looking at specific vacancies in specific areas, we will go by using your application. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. that is the way that we usually do that within the funded service as well, Joyce, isn't it? Okay, next question in the chat then. Are there additional risks associated with being a chair of governors rather than a local authority / foundation governor?
So I would say there isn't an additional risk being a chair of governors. It is a bigger ask of an individual. It does generally require a greater time commitment because you are typically building a closer relationship with the leadership of that school. You will be sort of, the first confidant of the head teacher or the executive principal, whatever the terminology they may use for the head of that school. You're no more responsible for the work of the governing board or the school than any other school governor. It's just the role of the chair of governors is really a leadership role on the board, to sort of help shape effective governance in that school, to make sure that the board is set up in a way and working in a way that sort of best allows it to meet the requirements of it. So there's no additional responsibility or risk really, but it is a slightly bigger ask. I found my time as a chair of governors to be deeply rewarding. I did my sort of 2.5, 3 years or so, and then was quite happy to hand it on to someone to a successor who sort of was keen to get involved and go on the next step of that journey. And it wasn't I stepped back into the general sort of makeup of the school governing board, and and it wasn't an issue whatsoever. There isn't any, as I say, there isn't an additional sort of risk or responsibility, but it is a bit more of a time commitment.
Thanks, Will. There's no one better to answer that question than someone that has been a chair of governors themselves. So thank you for that. Perfect. So that was the last question in the chat. I think we can give it another couple of minutes or so. We still have 9 minutes left on the call. So if anybody else has any other questions, then yeah, please do ask away.
One thing I noticed, Claire, is in the chat, I realize I put like the link to becoming a school governor, but I can only send it to hosts and panelists. I don't know if you can edit that so I can send it to everyone. I just suddenly noticed that I've only sent it to you both.
Okay. Will it not allow you to click to everyone?
No, I can only send it to either you personally or to hosts and panelists, which is myself. I'm not sure. Otherwise, of course, we'll send it out to everyone. It will come out to everyone. There's a QR code there, and it will come out to everyone in the follow-up comms, of course.
Oh, okay. There you go. I think that's changed.
Brilliant. Yes, I'll repost it now.
Thanks, Will.
There you go. That's gone to everyone now. So if you're still on the call waiting for that link to come through, there it is.
Perfect. Yes, this webinar is being recorded and it will be sent around after the session. So you will receive a recording.
And if there are people that you think that in your personal networks, be that friends, colleagues, or family members that be really good school governors that are interested in learning about, please do forward on the recording. It'd be wonderful to hear from them, and I'm sure Claire, Joyce, and the wider team will be delighted to find them school governor opportunities as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've got a question for Will or Joyce. What would you recommend as the top 3 things that a new governor should do when they get appointed?
And over to you, Joyce.
Wow, really put me on the spot. I would say the first thing is allow time for yourself to really learn about the school. It's okay that when you sit on a board meeting, being someone completely new, I have no idea what's going on. Especially for myself, I didn't grow up in the British education system. I grew up elsewhere, so it was completely like a whole new world to me. But I think it's okay for you to just take it slow. And I would say at least people on my governing board and the stories that I've heard from others, like they're all very nice and they will give you time to learn as you go. The second thing I would say is there's no stupid question, especially if you don't work in the education sector. In the meeting, they might use quite a lot of acronyms or terms that you are not aware of or have no idea what they are if you're outside the education sector. So if you have questions around that, or if you just don't understand anything, feel free to just ask in the meeting. I don't think anyone, the head teacher, the deputy, the chair of governance would despise you because of that, because it is always just a learning process. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah,
That's
fantastic
brilliant.
answer.
Thank you, Joyce.
Fantastic
So,
answer,
did you have
Joyce.
anything to add?
No, not really. I think just do, read the school website, look at the previous Ofsted reports, undertake there's lots and lots of really brilliant induction training out there for you to do that introduce you to all the different areas of the role, and then have a think about the core aspects. Some things we have to do. So we have to read Keeping Children Safe in Education, part 2 at least, is from a safeguarding perspective. That's a really important thing that we do as governors. And so if we're newly being appointed, that should be high on our list of things that we want to read. And what we say is that your chair of governors or your clerk to governors or your governance professional and whoever they may be in your school will sort of work with you on an induction plan and give you this information and think things are required from you as well to help you settle into the role.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you, Will. We have another question. I can't remember if this was asked, but does the process mean submitting a CV and being interviewed? So once you've submitted your application form via our website, via the link that Will has posted in the chat or the QR code on the slide, so you'll submit your application form, and you do not need to submit a CV via us to Governors for Schools. If once you're put in contact with the school, you wish to give them your CV or they ask for it, then you can, but it's not something that we ask for. In terms of an interview, the process works usually, each school has a different recruitment process. I'm sure Will and Joyce can vouch for, but generally what will happen is you will have an initial call with someone from the school. So it might be the clerk to governors, it might be the chair of governors, it might even be the head teacher. It really depends who is dealing with the recruitment of the governing board, and you'll have an initial call with them, and then following that call you'll usually be invited into the school to have a tour of the school, and then you'll get to meet the chair of governors or the head teacher in person, and then you'll have more of a maybe formal sit down meeting. And then following that, would you say, Joyce and Will, that you would probably then be asked to observe a full governing board meeting, and then your placement will be ratified? I think maybe some schools might have a more formal interview process, but I think it depends on who that school is. Would you agree, Joyce? And
It does. It will vary from school to school. It isn't, my experience of all that I've been involved in from the school governance point of view. No, it's not a adversarial type interview. It's just really to establish best fit, and it's really important to remember that as part of that, it's very much a two-way. It's a two-way conversation. It's making sure that we're happy as individuals, that we want to get to know the school a little bit better and make sure that we're happy that we can support the ethos of the school and sort of and add value. So when we're going into that, it's not just about proving our worth. It's actually making sure that we're happy we're happy with the role, and it's something that we want to go to get ourselves involved in as well.
thank you, Bill. Can a school teacher, I'm loving all these questions. We've had loads of questions, which is brilliant. So thank you for sending them in. So next question, can a school teacher be a school governor in the same / other school? So yes, because they do have something called staff governors. I know that staff within one school are able to support that school's school governing board. Joyce or Will, you're able to be a teacher in one school and support another school governing board?
Yes, you can. And in fact, we encourage teachers to do that, because as a frontline teacher, your role is very hands-on, and it's on the front line. It's very operational. And if you want to professionally develop yourself on a different way, then it is a great chance, a great learning growth opportunity for you to be a governor, because things are more strategic, and these are the things that you might not be involved from your day-to-day teaching role. So if you are thinking about your next steps in your teaching career, being a school governor is a great what's that called? Stepping stone. That's it.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing to do. I know many teachers that become school governors, and they really recommend it. And sometimes it might be a good idea to become not too close to the school that you're at. But that's the only thing I would think. If I don't want to go to the primary school around the corner, etc., etc. But yeah, a really brilliant thing to do.
Thank you both. The next question in the chat, is there opportunities to learn more about specific areas of a school? I'm a very new co-opted governor and I am interested in being a link governor for SEND, but my only knowledge is that I've learned with my child being SEND. Will, you may be best placed to answer this one with being a link governor yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a link. Well, I'm a link governor for Send myself in my current role, and there's lots of opportunities. If you've got a particular area of interest you want to learn more about, have a conversation with your chair of governors or chair of trustees, whoever that may be. I'm sure they'll be very delighted to have you get involved then. And then there's lots and lots of training that's available to you. Be it via ourselves, via Governor Hub Knowledge, via any of the other sort of providers that are out there that can really help you sort of just get to learn about that aspect of the role and give you some kind of questions you might want to ask about once you become a link governor. You don't need to be an expert in that subject to become a link governor. You just want to you're building up your knowledge so you can have like an informed conversation and really have a good back and forth with the subject leads or the people responsible for that in the school. But yeah, really, a really fantastic thing to do. And I've always recommend. I think it's great taking on a link governor role and sort of taking on that responsibility in the school.
Thank you, Will. We have one more question in the chat. What are the other prospective roles after becoming a governor? So I'm assuming, does that mean what is next after becoming a school governor? How we're reading that.
I think that's I think it's very much up to the individual. There are different structures of governance. You can become a governor at a local governing board and then work your way up to become a trustee within a multi-academy trust. Once you've got the experience under your belt, people do that quite a lot of the time. Or take on sort of other opportunities in sort of civil society. School governance sets us up for any number of sort of fantastic, the skills that we'll develop and display, during our school governance, can go off. We can use those in sort of many different walks of life. So it's a great thing to do, as I've probably said, in terms of our professional development, and it opens up a wide array of sort of pathways, be that professional or other volunteering opportunities for us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you, Will. Okay, that was our last question. Thank you all for your questions. We've had 53 questions in this session today, which is great. So thank you all for sending those in. I don't see any more questions coming in, and I can see some people have had to drop off the session. So thank you all for attending today and giving up your time to hear a little bit more about school governance and how you can get involved. We really hope that you will submit your applications so that we can get you matched with a school as soon as possible. I'd also like to say a big thanks to Will and Joyce for joining today. And yeah, we just hope to receive your applications, and the recording will be sent to you all following the session.
Thank you, everyone. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll end the session now.